All right, everyone, welcome to your first module on your intro into human design. I'm so excited for you to be here. I'm thrilled for what Nattalee is going to share. I want to remind you that what we're creating is bite-sized content for you to digest at the pace that is right for you. If you are an early adopter into this program, that means you are going to get access to the information as we create it, and we're creating it on a schedule over the next 4 months. If you are a later adopter, you're going to have access to lots of information all at once. And so whether the information is here or not, go at the rate that feels right for you. So without further ado, and I will say that we did create this according to the way that it's best for you to understand and learn it. And there is a certain sort of structure to the content. And so we're teaching you in a way that will help you to build the information and to learn it as you go. And that your knowledge should build upon itself and make other parts of it more understandable, or you learn as you go. There's a little bit of a method. Jump around if you feel like it. But right where we're at is where we're going to start. So Nattalee, oops, I always hit that button. It's the mouse.
Okay,
all right,
well,
take it away.
We're starting at, welcome everyone, and we're starting at the beginning, of which there was an invitation to get your own chart. And what we're looking at here is what a human design chart looks like, the squares, the triangles. And you'll notice on your chart that certain squares and triangles are colored in, certain things are red, certain things are black. There's all different variations on what people's charts look like. So, but the first piece of learning about yourself is to learn what your human design type is and strategy. And not that we're trying to put anybody into a box or a category, but there is a lot to unpack. And this is the first step, looking into your chart. So we're going to look at the four main types. So as manifestor, generator, projector, and the reflector. So you'll see on this image here that each type has a different strategy. How do you use your energy, basically, is what strategy means. How do you move about in the world? What's really gonna bring you the most alignment? In alignment, when we're in alignment, it's, we're balanced, we're holding that yoga pose, right? And we're not in alignment, things are a little wonky, and we can't hold the yoga pose, or we're falling over, as a way to bring up a picture for you. So strategy helps you keep your alignment, or know when you're in alignment. And then each type has a theme. And what is it that comes up for you when you are out of alignment? And then the last section for each is, what is it that you're curious about? What does this type want to know? What are they questioning? So as a manifestor, they are designed to initiate. We'll go a little bit more into detail with that in the slides, but just to give you the quick overview. So manifestor is here to initiate, and they're an energy type. So they've got access to energy that wants to be used, and it moves pretty quickly. And so what's important for manifestors to know is to have alignment is to be able to inform other people, to let them know, oh, I'm moving over here very quickly, I'm leaving the job tomorrow, something like that. And what happens to them when they don't inform, potentially they feel resentment or anger, like, I'm just trying to do what I'm wanting to do, and people are getting in the way, or people aren't allowing me to move around, or oops, I forgot to inform. And so either way, then that's what happens, is they feel that anger, and they want to know, they're questioning, they're internally, when they're reflecting. It's like, how do I impact others? Am I impacting others? What can I bring that's new and different? And how do I get people to get in action? So the generator, also an energy type, very different. They're waiting to respond. Now, just those words alone, if you're a generator or a manifesting generator, we're going to put you in the same category. Those words, wait to respond. You can hear that 7,000 times and it's going to land a little differently every time you hear it because it's so foreign. None of us were raised to wait for anything, actually. So it's like, you're the kind of person that needs someone to email you or call you or ask you so that you, oh, yes, or no, I want to engage my energy with that. And what happens with them, their theme is that, well, like how we were all conditioned from school and family and just society is like, oh, that's a great idea. I'm just going to go do something. I'm going to make that happen. I'm going to push that outcome. I'm just going to go over there and I'm going to do this or that. And then it doesn't go well. And that's where the frustration comes in. But a generator doesn't really know who they are until the phone call comes, until the email comes, until they see someone else doing what it is that they would like to do. It's like, oh, yes. And it all comes from a gut response. The third type is a projector. We call them non-energy types, though it doesn't mean they don't have any energy. It's just not as consistent. And as you learn the different centers, you'll see more of what I mean by that. And here's that word again, wait, wait, wait to be invited. And that's a tough pill to swallow for projectors. And really, there's a lot of curiosity about what does that mean? And we'll get into that. What happens for them is that, they have all this knowledge and they're very capable people, but they don't get invited. And so they get resentful or they try to force their gifts or their ideas where they weren't asked or they're not appreciated. And so what they deal with when they're not in alignment is they have to deal with the bitterness. And they're very curious about the other. Their energy kind of points to, what's that person over there doing? They're very other focused. And the last type, which is very, very rare, there's only like 2%, and that is the reflector. And the reflector, they're waiting for a full moon cycle. So if you're a reflector, you may kind of have a sense of like, I just don't function like other people. I need a lot more time. And so when they do behave as they were conditioned or trained, which is not waiting, and there's some other pieces we'll get into, is they have to deal with feeling disappointment. And their curiosity is not just the one other, it's everyone. Who are they? Who's this community? Who are these people? So I think we can go on to the next slide and people can come back to that. So as I mentioned, the first type, the manifestor, they're here to inform other people. I have worked with so many manifestors, primarily females, who when they find out like they're the ones that can really take charge, they're the ones that can really act first. It's a huge, huge awakening for them because it's like, well, I kind of knew that, but other women didn't behave that way. And I didn't think it was ladylike, or all these, thinking patterns that come up that are not serving, come up with manifestors, and particularly female manifestors. So let's look at a little bit more detail about the manifestor. So Informing. Informing can look many different ways, but informing is being aware of what you're up to. You know, what are your actions? What are you doing? And who needs to know about it? So as you see here, there's 8% of the population is manifestors. That Nike famous advertising slogan, just do it, that most of us have lived by, 100% of the population, we were told just go do it, right? Just do it. And really there's only 8% of the people on the planet that can really live by that is really their motto, is to just do it. They don't necessarily need other people to get things going, but eventually to sustain it and to be able to support what they're doing and their innovations. They're very innovative and very creative, and it's very creative energy. They are going to have to learn how to keep informing and how to collaborate with others so that their energy is focused on initiating. So so the key characteristics: they take action, they can manifest independently of the other types. And in that action and initiating and innovation and creativity, they're in action, but not all the time. They do need naps, they need rest. It's to really function in their highest alignment. And here's again, we talk about is how the anger can come up when other people can slow them down or get in their way. But their greatest gift is really, and their greatest joy is when they can use their gifts to empower others, to get other people into action.
I'll just pop in and say, welcome to the program. I'm a manifestor. So if you are also a manifestor, I see you, I welcome you. And it feels a little bit like, it's exciting, a little bit of a responsibility and a lot of understanding as to why I am the way I am. So welcome. If you're a manifestor, you're in good company here.
So the generator, this is a huge portion of the population, 70 at least. And all this waiting, you know, here we're all been conditioned in life to be this go-getter, the Nike go do it. And yet we can go do it, but there has to be a condition satisfied first. And that is that we're responding to something. And it has to be something that stimulates our passion, our energy, our juice. So let's look what else we can talk about in the generator. So you'll find in your research that some of your generators are manifesting generators. It's about split out of the 70% of the planet. It's 33, 35 that are generators, and some are manifesting generators. And they act very differently. And yet at the core root of it, it's because they have this wisdom of this sacral energy. They have access to this sustaining power. And so in that, they have a similarity. And even if we were to look at a generator's chart, a manifesting generator's chart, there's still all these little nuances, these uniquenesses about everybody's chart. But as we said, this is just the beginning, just to get you started and to see how you resonate with what we're sharing here about your type. So the thing about it is not trying to figure it out in your head. So many times I hear from clients, yeah, I just got to figure that out. And when I say there isn't any figuring it out, figuring out, it's like in my mind, it's like, no, it's like notice, what's happening in your life? What is there to respond to? What really juices you and excites you? And a generator and manifesting generator have to have their work in alignment with what they have passion for, period. You know, it's like, and I think this audience that I'm speaking to that's what you're seeking. You're seeking to take your creative energy and bring it into the world versus working a 9-to-5 job. So the creative builders is another name for the generator. So they're able to sustain energy and really carry things through. So when the manifestor starts something, you know, every manifestor needs to have at least 7 or 8 generators around them to sustain it, to keep the energy going, and handle some of the details and organization. So their gift, the generator's greatest gift, they're the life of the party. They have the life force. They have this sacral energy. They light up a room. And it's really good for them to go into nature. It's almost like a tuning fork, to just, you know, the more nature, the better. And if it's only a tree, then intentionally like recalibrate your sacral center with Mother Earth, with the nature. And as I mentioned earlier, the joy and fulfillment. And it's like, are you satisfied at the end of the day? You may have had to clean out the garage or do some other typically unpleasant job or duties, but it's like, oh God, that felt so good to get that done. You're looking for, what are you giving your energy to that brings you satisfaction and pleasure? It's important to know that this frustration thing that we talked about, that's a normal part. It's just a signal that says, hey, you got to slow down. What are you up to? You're frustrated. Where did the mind get in the way and take over what the body wisdom knows, what that sacral energy wisdom knows? And their vibrant energy is very sought after. And so there may be a lot of things to respond to, but which ones are you looking for? The ones that really give you a lift. And so this is the type that I am. I'm a pure generator, not a manifesting generator. And, you know, I lived my life as an initiator, a manifester, like go for it, do it, you know, just always having my energy go out to take care of anything and everything. And when I first heard the words wait to respond, I was like, what does that mean? Oh my God, I never thought of that. It was a huge awakening for me, and to really take this in. And I swear for the first, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, every time I would hear some recording or anything about a generator, wait to respond, it would just drop into me a little bit deeper. Like, what did that really mean? So, welcome to the world of the generator, of what does it mean to respond? We could talk for days about what that means. So test it out for yourself. What does it mean to wait to respond?
That's great. And I think
what's
that
a juicy response?
Right.
Versus a so-so, that's kind of a no.
Right.
Okay.
And I know I'll point this
to the
out.
next one.
Well, hold
Anything
on.
else do you want to add on that, Nicole?
Yeah.
Because you're learning all about generators.
Yeah, right. So 2 things I wanted to just point out. One is that here, obviously, we're just putting generator and manifesting generator in the same section. And there's a specific reason for that, which we'll explain in another video. But do you want to tell them why when they research it, there might be 2 places to research and they're separate, but why we're listing them together here is different. Do you want to mention that?
Well, yeah, some people say there's 5 types. Other education people that teach human design say there are 5 types. And and because they separate the generator and the manifesting generator, but what really, their aura acts the same, and they have the sacral energy. And when that sacral is colored in, it's it's the most powerful motor. It's the second one up from the bottom, that red box, that it's the most powerful energy center of the 9. And so when that's colored in, there is this element that energy needs to be engaged in order for things to bring about satisfaction and pleasure. And so at the very core, that is what makes them the same.
Got it. Okay. So there's 4 auras, which is why we're looking at it through only calling it 4 types, right?
Yes.
But in a lot of other places, they're going to call it 5. So just want you to understand there's a small distinction there. So I just wanted to mention that. Okay. All right. Moving on.
So the third type is the projector. Wait for an invitation. That now projectors are almost like a new kind of human. They're a new kind of leadership that is being birthed into our planet, our world, our evolution. They are, as we said earlier, very focused on the other. And so they are natural leaders, they're natural guides. But the catch is that you can't just go inserting your energy. There has to be something there has to be a recognition or some kind of a invitation. Let's look at this slide, and that'll tell a little bit more about what kind of invitations people are looking for as a projector. So as a projector, 20% of the population, and they just don't have the sacral center colored in. They don't have that consistent energy that's available to them. And they are very intelligent, very, very intelligent. They have an intellect and an ability to observe and observe others and things, and really seeing where the energy is going. They're conservative. They're like, well, if you would move that furniture over here and put that over there, then there would be a greater flow. Or it could be they just have a way of knowing how to have others be more efficient. Their strategy is waiting for invitations. Now this, again, here's a topic we could talk for a couple of hours on, but for the sake of this introduction to type, remember as a projector, the big things in life, your career, who you're bonding with, where you're going to live, relationships. These are the main life events that, in order for them to work for you, there has to be, and there's a term in human design, did you enter into it correctly? And this is really important for projector. How did a relationship get started, whether it's a friendship or even a mentor or something like that? Like, was any major relationship, who started it? Who did you feel like the energy came to you with some kind of an invitation or recognition? If you're the one that's pursuing other people, it doesn't mean anything horrible is going to happen. It just means that it's not ideal. And that theme about the bitterness, that's where that comes up, because eventually it's going to come back that you're going to not feel like it didn't work out so well. So in everyday life, though, it's like, well, if there's no groceries in the cupboard, we got to go to the store. The cupboard is not going to, the kitchen cabinet's not going to speak to you and say, go get your groceries. So you got to have a little common sense about everyday life, but you do want to pay attention to the subtleties. So you do go to the grocery store, and Um, does that person that's the cashier or whatever, is there some kind of, how does that interaction? Because remember, as a projector, you're more concerned about others than you are yourself. You're what's going on with them. And so as you're looking at them or her or him, is there some kind of interaction? Do you feel like they're recognizing you? Are they engaging with you? And if not, then it's like, okay, this is not the person to engage with.
Mm.
So again, the subtle energies throughout the day in people that you interact with. Does that mean, say you're a copywriter or an editor, and you have a business? Do I have to wait to be invited? Well, you have to, in a practical world here, you put your information out. You have your website or your flyer or whatever, however you're getting clients, but you still want to pay attention to how does that relationship get started? What kind of eye contact? What kind of conversation? What's the tone? Is it feeling like you're being recognized and appreciated? Super important. Okay, natural teachers and leaders, really, really important to study. You want to study other people, but you also want to get really, really, really good at what you do. That's because projectors are promised success. And so before you start leading and guiding others, I always invite my projectors to lead and guide yourself. Do what you need to do for yourself. Have really great instincts on other people and how they can be more efficient and guide them. They become bitter when they do not get included. So just notice that. It may not be the right people. That's a possibility. And they shine when you add, hey, what do you think about this? I love the projectors in my life. It's like, so what do you think about this? How would you do that? What would you suggest? And then they get to, give you their expertise. And so just knowing that, who are the people, or your children in your household, are people that you interact with on a regular basis, are they projectors? Because it's going to go, oh, I see, because they're a little bit different, right? And it's like, oh, this is what really helps them, is when I call them or when I ask them. And also, this is not on the slide, but this is like really from my heart about projectors, is that when I have had projectors recognize me or appreciate me, and you can feel it. I mean, I just feel it deep through my whole body. They're so amazing when they recognize other people. So that recognition thing, it goes both ways, but they're masterful at that. And so I hope that you have an experience with that, either as a projector or in hanging out with a projector.
Interesting. I love that. And when you talk about with your kids, and it's like you and I've talked a little bit about wanting to, at some point, there's so many things on my list, and I really want to understand how my kids are, right? What's their design? And then how can I parent them from that perspective? And there's, we have the family advisor, Tara, who is in the program. She'll be doing her masterclass. But I think it is really amazing, because I think that some of this, obviously what you're coming into this program for, is for you to really get to know yourself. But when you start to understand that there's other ways that other people engage with life, and it's just different from you, and you can sort of start recognizing this, what you just said made me think, I wonder if my oldest is a projector, because he said something to me the other day that just like melted my heart. And I'm like, how thoughtful of him to say that. It was so sweet. So now, of course, I'm super curious. I'm like, wonder if that means he's a projector. And so you won't obviously know all the people's birth times. You won't be able to run charts on everyone, but just being able to recognize it from that perspective, I feel like, wow, that feels fun. Also, when you talk about the bitterness, it's like, oh, I can recognize in other people and be like, oh, like they're just bitter because they're a projector. It's just how they're designed. It's nothing personal. So I just wanted
Yeah.
to add that piece.
The fourth type is the reflector. Wait for 28 days. That's a lot of waiting. Waiting, what are they waiting for? They're waiting for their clarity. They're waiting to know what is the right thing to give their energy to. What is it the right thing to get engaged with? What about this person they met, or this invitation to engage with something else? Or, you know, should I, you know, start a new department in my company? Decisions, that's what we mean, waiting for 28 days. So let's go on. So I've met a lot of reflectors especially in my early years of education, and they feel very different. They're almost like a little bit porous and very open. I'm describing them energetically as I experience them. They are 2% of the population, not very many, and what they need to start to understand and appreciate about themselves is they're very wise beings. They have an immense wisdom. In the human design body graph, remember those squares and triangles? As a reflector, they don't have any of them colored in. You might think, whoa, they must be weak, or they must be this, or they must be that. And actually, their aura takes care of them. They don't, even though where the centers are not colored in, we take in energy. The reflector has a little bit of a protection. It's like they can take in energy, like they sample things and then they take it back out. So they, with this education and understanding, reflectors can be more buoyant, more vital, stronger. So they are gifted and very wise individuals. They're like the judge, like you know, what's the right thing here? What's the most just and right thing to do in this situation or that situation? So they're waiting for these invitations, but they need time. They need time to sit with that invitation. They need time to discuss it with some of their trusted allies and to hear their thoughts. This is what I should do. Or so when I say trusted allies, I mean people that won't solve any of their problems or answer their questions for them until the right time, to really let them explore if this invitation or this relationship or this situation is really going to be in alignment with them. So each day they are they're different because the planets affect them. And I won't go too deep into detail with this. I do have a resource for people that if you're a reflector, you know, just reach out to me. There are some really great videos that help reflectors from a reflector. So to understand what I mean by why are they changeable and they're very flexible, because I would have to get deep into the teaching of human design about the planets. But they're really able to tune in and read other people and read the environment and read the community. And, you know, how do we make this work? How do we make this better? Like I said, they're very wise beings. They're very looking for a win-win for everyone. They can, you know, feel like they're be disappointed because they are so unique and different and they are changeable. So there is a certain process that reflectors go through to accept who they are. And they need time alone every day. I think every type does, only for different reasons.
Right.
You know, everybody, they'll just sit and put it that way. Everybody needs time alone each day. If you can sleep alone, that's great. And if not, you can only get 15, 20 minutes, whatever you need is to be be in your own energy and know what that feels like, because the minute you engage with someone else, things change.
I'll just add here, if it's okay, that being as a manifester, I can actually look back now, understanding that making decisions in the moment is something that comes natural and easy to me. And I can usually run with some trust on what I decide is the right choice for me in that moment. But I can also look at some times where I think back, I'm like, I wonder if that person was a reflector, because, they just like, it just like drug out the decision making process. And I was like, just decide, right? So, wisdom is not, or wisdom, whatever the word is, how, I don't know how to say that, but wisdom is power, or knowledge is power, right? That, they weren't, now I can say probably it's more than like they just needed the time, and it had nothing to do with, the urgency that I had was irrelevant to them, and they needed that time and space. And so, but I could have been less stressful in myself of just being like, this is how it is, and accepting them for who they are and how they decide and how different it is for me, and that it's not wrong, right? So a lot of what I love to learn about human design is how to accept what is, without looking through the lens and the projection of like, well, if I can do it, everyone can do it. That's just not true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can talk about the timing on things. We'll be talking about that.
Yeah. So anyway, I hope
this
it's
is
okay.
this is, as a reflector, this is a big example. And if they don't know it,
Right.
if you're a reflector and don't know you're a reflector, and you can certainly have a lot of negative self-talk about, why do I have to take so long? Or
Right. Okay.
so just, it's good to know your uniqueness, and this is the first step. So human design is the science of awakening. What do I mean by that? Awaken to what? Well, I can speak from my personal experience. Awakening to a strategy for life was huge for me. Huge. Here I was, someone that was always giving out, and never really receiving first and then giving. If it was aligned, or that learned that I could actually say no. That's an awakening to learn. So there's so many nuances about people's charts, but what we've talked about today is the framework, is the mechanics, and to be able to take in what the strategy, take in what the information that's been offered here, take it to heart, take time with it, listen to it a couple of times, listen to somebody else that, or read something about a generator or a manifesting generator, and see what surfaces, what comes up for you, and notice where the mind, your thinking patterns, can negate some of that. It's like, oh, just a quick story. In my earlier years, when I first found out waiting to respond, it was like, oh, the heck with that. I'm going to go to this event. I'm not going to wait for anything. I eventually learned out, what happens when I went against my strategy. But again, that was an awakening in itself. To be willing to experiment and test it out. And that's the invitation here, is to just take what you've learned here, see how that shows up in your life or your kids' life, and how you can have more alignment and less chaos, less misalignment in your life.
I love it. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And y'all, this is just the beginning. I don't know why I just said y'all, but that's just what came out. I just really want to remind you that there's so much fun to be had here. And that it is all within you to, tap in and decide what you think feels right or sounds right. And then even notice, like, is that just a decision that I've made from conditioning? And, what does that mean? And so we'll talk more about conditioning and what that means, as far as, I think, what is the next one we're talking about, Nattalee? Is it the centers?
The next one is the authority, but that could change by the time we go to do it. So
Yeah, for sure.
Uh,
So there's so
Stay
much
tuned.
yeah, there's so much to go through. But what I will say is that when she was talking about, just observing and noticing and being aware of your thoughts, that is what the reframe process is. The very first, the pre-work module that you hopefully have gone through already, is that is a way for you to take your thoughts and put them on paper and to just observe them, to see what your mind is saying, to see what your body is feeling, to hear how you are naturally responding as of right now. And then using human design to say, does that resonate? Is that aligned? Is that according to my design? And if not, how do I want that to look going forward? So using the reframe process and actually having that resource in front of you, until you get to the point where you can process it in your mind without having the paper. You want to be able to have that awareness and do that observation on paper. So that's what that's there for you. That's why that is there for you. And we'll see you in the next module. Thanks, everyone.